Hello, and welcome on behalf of the Oceanside Public Library to the Oceanside Mayoral Candidates Forum. I'm Monica Chapadomer, Principal Librarian of Adult Services here at the library. We're so pleased to be hosting this forum as we know it expands the library's mission to engage, inform, connect, and inspire our community. Civic engagement in a democracy is one of the values the library upholds. We have asked the North County San Diego League of Women Voters to help us with this forum because of their track record for clear and nonpartisan work. I'll now turn over the forum to tonight's moderator, Mary Crowley.
Thanks, Monica. Welcome, and thank you for being with us for this virtual candidate forum for the office of Mayor of the City of Oceanside. As Monica said, my name is Mary Crowley from the League of Women Voters of North County, San Diego, and I will be the moderator. And as she mentioned, we are delighted to be partnering with the Oceanside Public Library. Before we start, I'd just like to take a moment to say a few words about the League. The League of Women Voters is an organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The League, like the 19th Amendment, is celebrating its 100-year anniversary this year. And even though we've been around for a long, long time, here we are staying current and tackling Zoom. Speaking of Zoom, I'd like to acknowledge our media coordinator, League member Nancy Telford. Nancy has worked tirelessly to get us all up to speed. You know, one of the most misunderstood things about League is that although we are a political organization, we are nonpartisan. So what do I mean by that? Well, it's very simple. We do not endorse or oppose candidates or political parties. The advocacy arm of the League, however, may take position on issues that the League has studies. This forum, however, is being presented by the education arm of the League, which does not take positions or do advocacy work. You know, the League of Women Voters has moderated candidate forums such as this one all over the country, using a format that most people find fair, balanced, and informative. The candidates and sponsor have all agreed to participate under these guidelines. We are also asking the candidates to defer from any personal attacks, but rather keep it to the issues of the positions and the campaign. Our goal is to get as many of your questions answered as possible. We are recording this forum and we'll be posting it, first of all, on our new YouTube channel, LWV North County San Diego YouTube. It will also be posted on www.oceansidepubliclibrary.org, as well as the Oceanside Public Library YouTube channel. Video recorded streaming of this forum is limited to authorized entities only and must be shared in its entirety as per FCC regulations. Unlike when we were live, questions for this forum have been solicited in advance from the community, from the League, and the library. The question sorters have screened the questions to avoid duplication, anything derogatory, and ones that are not relevant to this election. They've also organized the questions into categories of a similar nature to assure topics of the greatest interest are going to be asked within the time available. As per our protocol, none of the League members participating in this forum vote in the City of Oceanside. The screeners for this forum are League members Kathy Green and Barbara Lorenzen. The timer is Brittany Engel. Brittany will now demonstrate how the timing works because although we on the panel can see her, those in the viewing audience will not. So Brittany, will you go ahead and show everybody the panels, please?
Yes, I have two panels here. I'll hold this one up when there's 30 seconds to go, and this one up when it is their time to stop. Good luck, everyone.
So now let's begin. So candidates, please silence your cell phones, mute yourself when not speaking, and although we know it can be very, very difficult, please adhere to the time constraints. As mentioned previously, this forum is for the office of Mayor of the City of Oceanside. This is an at-large election and the term is for 4 years. And now the rules of the road. Candidates will have 1 minute for their opening statement, 1 minute for their closing, and 1 minute to respond to each question. As we've told the candidates, this is a forum and not a debate, and extra time for rebuttal is not provided. I think you'll get sick of hearing me say this, but once again, our goal is to get as many of your questions answered as possible. If there is a lightning round, those questions will be limited to yes or no answers. We will also alternate who answers each question first. Prior to the start of this event, the order of speaking was determined randomly. Excuse me, okay. Mr. Howard will go first for opening statements and will go last for closing statements. So, Mr. Howard, please.
Greetings and thank you to the League and the library for doing this forum to get the information out to the voters. My name is Rob Howard, and I am a candidate for the Oceanside mayor's position. My background, I'm a Navy veteran, and I've spent over 30 years as an operator for San Onofre at the nuclear plant. I'm also a leader in my union as the president of the Utility Workers Union Local 246 and a member of the executive board for the San Diego Labor Council. I chair my church's board, and I do a number of hours of volunteering at Maricosta, Palomar, and with youth groups in the county. Why is it important? People were there for me as I was growing up in Tennessee. The importance of actually engaging young people on a level where they can trust you, you can help them with career advice. But as mayor, my goal is to bring that unity to the city that we need on the council and throughout our region. Rob Howard, candidate for Oceanside mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Marchi.
My name is Fabio Marchi, running for mayor in Oceanside. We need a new blood in the council. Don't even think to contribute to my campaign because you cannot buy me. I'm not for sale like many other politicians are. I was born in Argentina under dictatorship, so I really learned what is abuse of power on government. I'm an engineer, I'm a general contractor, and a real estate. But in a nutshell, I'm a can-do guy. I want to be there for the citizens. My rules are tough on crime, when making accountable the ones that they're doing bad, rebuild infrastructure, and no more pay to play in the city of Oceanside. I want to cut the red tape. Thank you.
Mr. Major.
Well, hello, my name's Ruben Major, running for Oceanside mayor. I'm an emergency paramedic of 20 years, and I own an EMT school in several states. I was homeless as a kid, but I worked my way out of it through education. I received a law degree and master's in history. I have 3 kids that attend local schools here. My wife and I also run local animal rescue, which is a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. I love helping people and would be honored to have your vote. Having been homeless as a kid, my top priority in Oceanside is to address the homeless crisis, which I believe can be achieved in a nonpartisan manner. As a public health educator, I bring a unique perspective to this race, dealing with regard to COVID-19. I'm also against the North River Farms project and want to support our public safety by decreasing fire department response times to 5 minutes or less. Again, my name is Ruben Major, paramedic educator and small business owner running for mayor. I'd be honored to have your vote. Again, Ruben Major.
Mr. Chavez.
Well, good evening, and I'd like to thank the Oceanside Public Library for doing this. I used to sit on the library board when I was the council member, and to see how far you've grown, it's very impressive. And of course, happy birthday to the league. You know, the mayor's race is about leadership. You know, I've been listening to our conversation we've had over the past couple of months, and everybody talks about what they're going to do. But the reality, you need 3 out of 5 votes to get anything done. So the mayor has to be able to lead people through this. I think my bio clearly shows that. I've been a Marine for 28 years and commanded 22,000 Marines in 48 states. Having been an undersecretary, then the acting secretary of the California Department of Veteran Affairs, responsible for 2 million voters, veterans, and also having been your state assembly member in Sacramento. It comes down to leadership and how do you get things done to move the city forward. I look forward for your support through this election. Thank you.
Ms. Sanchez.
Hi, I'm Councilmember Esther Sanchez, running to be our next mayor of Oceanside. Born in Oceanside, daughter of an immigrant, and part of a 5-generation Oceanside family. I have been committed to public service, first as a deputy public defender for 20 years, then as a council member. I have led on public safety, including community policing. Also affordable housing, over 1,000 affordable housing units, economic development, jobs, the environment, which desperately needs our tender love and care, and quality of life issues, especially at the neighborhood level. With a planning and legal background and years of experience as mayor, I will lead Oceanside into its economically and environmentally sustainable future. Our time is now. My name is Esther Sanchez, Councilmember Esther Sanchez, and I'm running to be our next mayor of Oceanside. Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll now get to the questions. I thought you and the panel, as well as the viewing audience, might be interested to know we had over 87 questions submitted for this forum. And interestingly enough, 31% of them were for police issues and 16% were for land use issues. So that compromised almost 50%. So those will be the questions that we will start on first, because obviously the group that asked the questions, this is their area of interest. So the first question is, if Oceanside started a police review board, how would you select candidates to be on it? And we're going to start with you, Mr. Howard.
Thank you. Well, first of all, you have to look at the legal aspects of a police review board and ensuring that we are not stepping outside of the bounds. The focus has to be on the fact that what we're looking for is transparency in policing and a building of trust. Part of that is recognizing that, again, will be a decision of the council, but what I would be pushing for is to ensure that we have a diversity of opinions and backgrounds. You need someone with a police background to give that perspective, but you also need someone who is a community oriented individual or group of individuals to give that perspective. So that background for the police review has to have a diversity of people. And from that point, you need to make sure we're communicating with the different sectors of our community to ensure that they all have an opportunity to, one, know about it and to also be involved in the process.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. That's a very good question. And I believe in empowering our communities. So we do have our diverse communities in Oceanside. We're 51% diverse, and many of our communities actually have organizations that have been working on this, on the idea of empowerment. So I would go to the different groups. We need all stakeholders at the table. So I would go to PhilAm organization. I would go to LGBTQ Resource Center. I would go to the NAACP and the Latino neighborhoods. We've got 3 Latino neighborhoods who have traditionally had very, these are the poverty neighborhoods. And of course, these are the neighborhoods that definitely need a representation. And of course, the broader community as well. So I feel very, very strongly that we need to have diversity. It's something that I've been pushing all along, especially when we have hires, community panels that have, that reflection of who we are as a community, as Oceanside. Thank you.
Mr. Major.
So I love this question. I think really what we need to do is select these members of the Citizens Review Board throughout our diverse set of Oceanside. And so the various districts, I believe, would serve as a great way of ensuring adequate representation of each particular area and group. I think as a paramedic, I understand this issue very well. I've worked side by side with law enforcement. I know some of the high points and definitely some of the low points. And I know that there's definitely a lot of things that we can do here to make policing better for our community. So again, I think making sure that that particular group is diverse is probably the most important thing that we can do and adequately represented throughout our community.
Thank you. Mr. Chavez.
Yes, a police review board, I think the first thing the council would have to do is determine what are their expectations from this board. What at the end of the day, what do they want them to deliver? And once we look at what we would like to have, then we'd look at and figure out organizationally, what should it be made of? And obviously it has to be diverse. It has to reflect the community itself, and not just in sexual orientation or nationality or cultural, but also in introverts and extroverts. How do they present themselves, and how do they learn? And then after that phase, then we'd have to have a selection by the council to figure out who's going to be there. Probably a board of a 9 to 11 would be appropriate. I think too big would be ineffective, too small could be too pointed. But I think it's something that definitely I would support as the mayor of Oceanside.
Thank you. Mr. Marchi?
Well, I support the police review because the way that the rules are running right now is just one more way to show the old boys club running the city. And for sure, that is not going to happen on my watch. Now, I will give you a brief example. It's kind of a long story, but I will try to make it short. We were a group of engineers trying to resolve and fix a machine, and the guy sweeping the floor passes by and say, hey, why don't you press this button and he resolved the issue? So there's not such a degree or special category in a board. When you got a mayor who is strong in leadership, all the other elements will be a contribution to help and expedite what the mayor is trying to achieve for the city. The city is for the citizens, not for bureaucrats. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The second question again is on police issues, and it says, do you, oh, I think I just asked you that. No. Do you support creating a community emergency resource / mobile crisis response team to respond to non-violent 9/11 calls involving drug, alcohol, mental health, or homeless issues? Okay, Mr. Major?
I love the fact that we're talking about this issue because I have been campaigning on this for several months, even before all the movements began, and you know, with regard to George Floyd and everything else in our city. And I think, man, this is so important to our community to make sure that we're adequately representing people. And this Citizens Review Board is great, but also moving over the homeless outreach team and the psychological emergency response team from the police department to the fire department, EMS, and as well as counselors and people with actual degrees in these areas will substantially increase our outreach. And I would be very excited to see this happen. I'm excited we're even having a discussion about it. And, you know, no matter what happens with this election, I hope that we move forward with this type of a plan. So absolutely 100% support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Howard?
Yes, we need to actually evaluate how the police response, what the calls look like, and ensuring, because one of the things about public safety and for communities to build that trust is we're having the appropriate people to respond to the appropriate call. Now, the transition is what I believe is probably the most important piece, because what you don't want to do is just start and then we're just going to do this. So it's real important we have the leadership is going to come through working with those other stakeholders that have those resources to make them available. You've got the county, who we'd be glad to work with on the medical piece, but it is critical to have the right response. I've been speaking with representatives at the police department about it, and they would prefer not to have the homeless outreach team because it's not really in their true policing area. And so we should look at making sure, as it was spoken to earlier, putting it in the right place. So yes, we need the appropriate response for the appropriate call.
Thank you. Mr. Marchi?
Yes, my intention is as a mayor, I want to instruct and make sure that the police department is going to work in the way that should be. There's not mystic, there's no science how they have to work. Everybody knows their job, but sometimes they can play a little bit easy. So it is in my mind to create two different levels of police, one with guns to respond to crime and others without the gun. Those will be more like social oriented people that they have to know probably self-defense, some kind of martial arts. And that's probably the best way to best allocate the money. You know, between the fire and the police, the city spent $100 million, and that is ridiculous. For that amount of money, we should be a crime-less society. The police, they should have white gloves, and obviously it's not like that. So a good mayor will know what to do. And it's no one more vote,
Thank you.
it's the
Thank you.
ruler. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. And one of the things that I really want to bring out is that we have a version of that going on right now. And I want to respect what we've been doing, especially at the grassroots neighborhood level. And this is a shout out to Save Our Streets, SOS, and our Samoan brothers and sisters, especially Wayne Godinay, who's been talking about the spokes of the wheel and community and how we all fit in to this notion of improving our situations and avoiding any kind of criminal process. So bottom line, yes, I do support it, but in a way that is actually coming from the neighborhoods or coming from, whatever that is, be it, if it's from the homeless and of course, homeless specialists, but in the neighborhoods, we've got to get to the leadership and bring the leadership in. And I actually noticed that I missed mentioning Samoan community as being part of that process. In the last question, I want to make sure that they are at the table as well.
Thank you. Mr. Chavez.
I think a crisis response team is the natural progression of public safety. If you would have talked about cameras on police officers 10 years ago, people would have been aghast. But I think we recognize that police do a great job, but there's different ways to level up to meet the crisis, especially in behavioral health. So I think it's totally appropriate to have a crisis response team that could come out and maybe de-escalate the situation instead of escalating it. You're seeing that in other cities right now. It's probably a joint combination between police, fire, and I'd actually say Tri-City Medical. So it's something that we should look at and move into, and I'd be supportive of that as the mayor.
Thank you. This is going to be the last question on police issues. It was really difficult to pick the best ones because, as I say, we had 27. So this one asks, do you support review and removal of gang injunctions? Mr. Marchi.
Yeah, so Oceanside is, I was watching a video to get it more educated. There's currently probably 20 gangs right now in Oceanside. They're not as strong as they were 20 years ago, but they're existing. And we need to have a special group that is especially trained to deal with gangs, because gangs can be, if we are managing the group from the police department, will be a good thing to be dissolved in our society. And what we need to stop also is pushing them and excluding them. We need to bring them back to society. You can see it, for example, in the jails, like differentiation between all the different hoods. And we don't want to have it in our open streets. So we have $100 million to spend. We will need to allocate the money where the money will be best for. Thank you.
Mr. Major.
So I just wanted to add one thing. So these community crisis teams, they've been done before. We're not reinventing the wheel. We can put a plan together and make that happen really quickly. It's not a long-term bureaucratic process. With regard to reviewing and removing the gang injunctions, I absolutely support that. It has a tendency to be used for racial profiling, and I definitely don't support that. I think also this reinforces police bias. The world isn't so bad. It's actually pretty good. When I got out of the field as a paramedic and into education, I used to have this thing where I was always worried that our kids were going to get hurt in a car accident. I was overcautious about seatbelts, and still cautious about seatbelts, but I was checking every 5 minutes. And so I think, I realized that the world wasn't so bad, that people weren't always dying on the streets when I got out of the field. And I think that officers have that same tendency. So again, we do not want to reinforce that police bias.
Thank you. Mr. Chavez.
Gangs in California are a real problem. When I was a state assembly member, I had the opportunity to go to the prison system and visit the different prisons. Gangs are controlled out of the prisons. The trafficking of drugs is also controlled out of the prisons. And we had a problem here in Oceanside 20 years ago when we lost 2 police officers because of the gangs. So this is a serious issue. And I think that we need to track the movement and influence of gangs within our community because it's a real thing. Now, as far as removal, definitely I believe in that. I think Assemblymember Weber has a number of laws I have supported as far as justice reform. If somebody has showed good conduct and wants to move out of that being labeled, I understand that and support that 100%. But gangs is not anything we should just treat lightly because it is controlled from the prisons and it deals with the millions and billions of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. I have a unique position here in that I grew up in Oceanside when there were no gangs, and we actually have 5, Fabio. We have not had a new gang injunction since 2011. We've been working really, really hard to address our youth in a very, very positive way. Yes, we've had our tragedies, and it's been horrendous to watch kids getting killed. Brown on brown, you know, this is something that we need to invest more in our communities for education and for economic development. But right now, we have not had new gang judges since 2011. And in fact, I and others working together have come up with a way and a form of getting kids off of gangs, or excuse me, now adults off gangs, off the gang list, because this is for life. So I understand the DA's office is doing the same thing, reviewing the list every year and taking people off the list. You have to be 5 years with no contact, no police contact. So yes, this is something we need to get off of. Thank you.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, I'm in agreement of really trying to remove them. But again, part of it is a recognition that how some young people wind up on it. So when we focus on providing the resources and other things necessary in increasing the communication between the DA's office, the Oceanside Police Department, to ensure that we're doing the right thing by these young people so that they don't wind up on there, and then working for removal, it allows them to give them opportunities. If they don't have adequate opportunities, then that is an opportunity for trouble. So I really believe in our young people and the people working in our community. And I think more than anything else, it's about providing them the opportunities outside of what would be considered traditional gangs, and how we classify them needs to be addressed.
Thank you. I think for just a little change of pace before we get into land use, I'm going to have a couple of speed questions just to give you all a little chance to breathe. So the first question is on the cannabis business tax, which is Measure L. Yes or no? Do you support the upcoming ballot measure on cannabis? We'll start with Mr. Major.
Yes.
That was fast. I had time to look at my list. Mr. Chavez.
No.
Ms. Sanchez.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Howard.
No.
Mr. Marchi.
Yes.
Sorry, Marchi.
Fabio, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was fast. Now the next one is also a yes or no. It's about Measure K. Yes or no, do you support the upcoming ballot Measure K about term limits? And we'll do the same thing again. Mr. Major?
Yes. It doesn't go far enough.
Naughty, yes or no? Mr. Chavez?
Yes.
Ms. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
And Mr. Marchi?
Yes, make it retroactive, please.
Okay, will do.
No ex post facto laws here.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Back to planning and land use. Okay, the next question is, if the Planning Commission votes against a project, how much weight do you give that decision? Mr. Chavez?
Very heavily. I think the Planning Commission represents the voice of the public. And keep in mind that the council is the one that actually selects and reviews who's going to be on the Planning Commission. The problem with Prop L is that twice it went to the Planning Commission and it did not pass their scrutiny. And so that's why I'm a strong opponent to Prop L. So if I became the mayor, I would listen strongly to the Planning Commission because I know the hard work that they've done before. In fact, I think back originally when I was in the council in 2002, we'd actually periodically meet with the Planning Commission every year. So we'd have an open dialogue and discussion on our expectations of what sort of quality products we'd have. And I think that dialogue between the council and the Planning Commission is good for the city. But that takes a mayor to understand the whole dynamics and the leadership that has to take. And I would be willing to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Howard.
Repeat it because I want to make sure we cover. Can you repeat that? Can you repeat
I'm sorry,
it?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I was saying, can you repeat it? Because I want to make sure I cover all of the issues. You still can't hear me?
Well, you're muted. I don't know. Can the rest of the panel hear Mr.
Yeah.
Howard okay?
Yes.
I can hear him.
Okay. The question is, if the Planning Commission votes against a project, how much weight do you give their decision?
Well, yeah, you should weigh it heavily, but part of that is you need to really be engaged with the Planning Commission throughout the process so that you know all of the work that has gone into it. There's been several forums in and around Oceanside and with other groups, and part of the information that comes out of that a lot of people may not know was the depth of information that was available to the council for that vote. So yes, you should weigh their information and their input heavily because that's why they're there, is to help the council to make good decisions for the citizens of Oceanside. And that's the job of the mayor, is to make sure that that's respected.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez?
Thank you. I would definitely give it weight. One of the things that happens though sometimes is the noticing doesn't actually end up happening. We've had problems with that before. So if there is a decision by the Planning Commission and then somehow people didn't find out, because this is a due process kind of situation here. So and the council sometimes acts as the final arbiter, the group that hears, say, an appeal. But yes, I would definitely give it the weight that it is due to it, especially with Measure L and the North River Farms project. I mean, it was staff recommending against it very strongly, the Planning Commission recommending against it, and the public. There was very little public in support of this project, and most of it, I'd say 98%, was against it. So yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Major?
So I think this is actually one of the most frustrating things that I've seen over the past 20 years or so. Just going back and looking at council records, and how many times is the Planning Commission coming up with a recommendation and the council is overriding it. So for me, it's an extremely heavy weight. I think that's extremely important. I think right now we just have some minimal listening to the Planning Commission. These appointments are being treated, I would say, more like favors rather than actually having a purpose. And I think we need to give the Planning Commission people purpose so that they can do their job and make our jobs easier when we're sitting on council. The other thing is, yeah, definitely take a look at the North River Farms project and how the Planning Commission had voted on that project, and look at what happened with the community and how the community is overwhelmingly against the project, but yet somehow, some way, it got approved. So definitely would put an end to that as much as I possibly could.
Thank you. Mr. Marchi?
Of course, Planning Commission, it has an important value on the decisions of any projects. As right now, the rules are that they can be appealed to the council. So the council is the last word. Now, what I'm objecting is everything is a pay to play, because to go to councils, you need to put money. What about the single homeowner who's trying to improve his home, and because some people in the Planning Commission, they don't like it, they will ruin that homeowner. So that homeowner should be going to the councils for free to appeal that decision, because again, government is for the people, not for the few. Fabio as a mayor will be making sure that will be accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question relates to traffic congestion. And the comment is, traffic congestion is a major concern throughout our city, yet the current city council keeps approving projects with overriding consideration, quote, overriding considerations, end of quote, that allow even more traffic failures. What will you do differently to keep traffic from getting worse? And Mr. Major.
So I think what we really need to do is we need to focus on getting people out of their cars and walking as much as possible. And I think we can do that in certain areas, and we can, I guess, incentivize mass transportation in, say, our downtown. And we can do these things like these bikes and scooters that I've been talking about for a while now, that we've seen throughout the city. I think that that would encourage people to get out of their cars and, you know, actually enjoy Oceanside more. I like the idea of having some more green spaces and places for families to spend. I think the idea that we have built up so high downtown and destroyed what was so valuable to so many people is really such a shame. And I think we could do a lot better. So if I get in there, that's what I intend to do.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you, and that's a very good question. I would make sure that we review our climate action plan, make it stronger, and then implement it, put it in the planning documents. Bottom line is that we are trying to do transit-oriented development. An example was the Melrose and Oceanside Boulevard project. It's near the Sprinter. However, there's nothing there in that project. There was nothing. I kept bringing it up to encourage other modes of travel, like somehow getting these folks onto and being able to take the Sprinter. Instead, the plan was to widen Melrose. So the whole idea about walkability and all of that is missing completely in the eastern part of our city. We need to be building Class A bicycle lanes. We need to be able to get into NCTD and do more busing and make it affordable and make it more available. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marchi.
So Fabio as a mayor will do things that they were not done for many, many years in Oceanside, because everybody's following an old cookie cutter and nobody does anything. And at the time of campaign, oh, I will do this, I will do that. So bottom line, we need to manage the budget, $150 million. We have to do better than we're doing right now. The streets are obsolete. Pipes are drinking water with asbestos. I'm an engineer and a contractor. I'm a can-do guy. I will make those changes myself. We need to stop to giving the contracts to a few. The contracts to be more diversity, and traffic is something that can be fixed. Whoever said it's not fixable or no hard should not be running a government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Howard.
Yeah, traffic is one of those areas where you do need to take a multifaceted approach, and you need the leadership to actually work on them. One, as it's been said before, yes, we need to work to get people out of their cars. During COVID, one of the things you noticed was as people started working from home, then that was another opportunity to get people out of their cars. Not everyone is able to do that. And with a large majority of our workers, people who work in Oceanside, I think it's over 70%, they commute. And so one, we need to work with North County Transit. Our traffic patterns need to be addressed. We need to work on our planning, but we need to focus on some key areas, getting people out of their cars. So what does that mean? That means we know when it's the high traffic areas, and then we look at who's in that traffic. Our students, we can incentivize the transit is one way to do it. We also have workers that work local. We can incentivize with all the things that people have talked about, whether it is bikes, scooters, and other items. North County Transit has a number of items coming forward soon. So again, it's a multifaceted approach.
Thank you. Mrs. Chavez.
I think we have a great opportunity in Oceanside right now dealing with traffic. The problem Oceanside has had is that they keep on trying to build things from the 1970s instead of looking to the future. You know, California's leading on climate action. I personally drive an electric car and I just enjoy the savings I actually have in doing that. And I think that we need to look at how people move around. I agree. We need to look at more bike trails. We need to make sure that we have community zoned, that we have walking trails to get people out. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. But when Sandag wanted to move with their plan down in San Diego for all these new innovations, Oceanside gave them a stiff arm. If I would have been the mayor, I'd have met with the CEO of Sandag and said, yeah, we're all for this climate action change. We give a lot of taxes. Bring some of that money up here so we can ensure that we work with North County Transit District and build the transportation that we'd like to see in Oceanside.
Thank you. The next question is related to environmental issues. Will you support managed retreat on our coast, or will you continue to ask taxpayers to pay to protect expensive homes from the inevitable sea level rise? Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I've been following this with the Coastal Commission, the Coastal Act, and Managed Retreat was basically the goal a few years ago. It's not so much that anymore. The whole idea is to find some middle ground to ensure, to address sea level rise and to ensure the protection of infrastructure. So basically what they're talking about is soft, like kelp beds and things like that. And what Encinitas has done, for example, and their living dunes and the living coastline, that is something that we could do. Obviously, we have some artificial things that happen to us, what happened in Camp Pendleton, and of course we have our own harbor, and of course that's why all the sand is basically escaping us. So we're going to have to continue dredging. We do have that contract with the Army Corps of Engineers, worth $3 million. We need to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Howard.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. If we don't start addressing the issue around sea level rise, it's not going to stop it from happening. So part of what we need to start looking at is how we manage it. And it's more advantageous if we get on our transition plan early. The longer you wait, the more expensive it'll be. So yes, we need to manage how we do it. But again, that's where we need to sit down and put our plan together, but really start working on it, because sea level rise is occurring. The damage is being done. And so we need to work with Sandag and the Coastal Commission, but it's up to us and the mayor and the council to lead those discussions for Oceanside and bring along the rest of our cities along the coast.
Thank you. Mr. Chavez.
As a Marine, it's hard for me to say I support managed retreat. I would probably see it more like preparing for the future. I think that we should do this. I sit right now, represent Governor Newsom in the Governor's Military Council. And as you know, many of the Marine Corps and Navy bases are on the coast. And so we are preparing right now to how do we deal with Department of Defense training areas along the coast of California. If the Department of Defense and the state of California recognize this as a real threat, the city of Oceanside should also do the same thing. So as your mayor, I'd be preparing for the future and how we can partner with Pendleton and other neighborhoods so that we can deal with the real threat that is coming our way. But I'm not going to retreat from anything. So just let you know.
Mr. Marchi.
Well, I want to summarize. I think the environment is based on science, but humans, we are smart and we overcome everything that the weather throw on us. For example, in Dubai, they built an island with rocks. Everybody in the world was laughing on them. Well, they did it. Look, Holland, they got dikes. Look, Venice, they flood every year. Now they didn't have a flood this year. Well, what do we do in Oceanside? Zero. Poor management. The distribution of the budget to bring sand to the beaches, bring rocks, motivate people to build seawalls, and overall, let the beach to be enjoyed by the people, by the citizens, because citizens, they are always kick inland, and the wealthy they're keeping the nice shores. So we need to make sure that the manager is going to roll. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Major?
Well, you know, when I think of the beach, I don't think of it as a beach just for the rich and famous of Oceanside, but I think of the beach as something that's owned by the entire community of Oceanside. And I know that there's a lot of people that have grown up here and that have spent a lot of time down at the beach. And I spoke about the buildings and stuff that we built downtown, which are, I think, atrocious looking. And I know a lot of other people feel the same. They want to be able to get out there and enjoy the beach. As far as this particular question is concerned, I think if we can think of some environmentally sound ways that are creative, futuristic, to address these issues, I'm all for those. We also do have tourism to protect, and we have the environment to really grapple with. So this is going to be a great struggle that's not just our city is facing, but any coastal city. And so what I'm looking to is the most creative and environmentally sound solutions that I can possibly find out there for this particular issue.
Okay, thank you. The next question relates to homelessness. And the comment is, on October 3rd, 2018, Oceanside adopted a resolution to declare a shelter crisis. It's now 2020 and we still have no shelters. What is your plan to build shelters for the homeless? And do you intend to build enough shelters to satisfy the Martin versus Boise threshold? Mr. Howard.
We need to start addressing this, but you can't go at it without understanding the issues. There's multi-layers associated with the homelessness, and if you just built enough shelter for the people we have, then you're missing an opportunity to provide for some folks, it was just easier to keep them from becoming homeless in the first place. And so yes, we need to attack the shelter piece, but again, a lot of these questions we talk about here and in other forums come back to what are we doing with regard to how we're planning this out. So yes, we need to have shelters, but we also need wraparound services because there's several areas where people have need. There's the mental health perspective of it. There's issues of abuse causing people to become homeless. There's issues of loss of job, those kind of things. So we need to approach it where we are targeting the necessary resources for that particular issue. But a shelter is, we need to get it done. And that's where the leadership will provide.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. I have been so embarrassed that our council has been basically frozen in time on homeless for the last 20 years. We don't have a shelter. We only have the Women's Resource Center, and that is for victims of domestic violence. We have had a very difficult time in this culture at City Hall, and we've got to break it. And especially as a mayor, we have to lead in a way that we have a lot of really great resources out there with interfaith and all these affordable housing specialists. We need to do it from the ground up. It has to include shelters. It has to include a transition housing. It has to include affordable housing. I mean, bottom line is, and everything with wraparound services, obviously. But we also have to have the day centers where people can come off from being homeless. I mean, that's what everybody complains about is people being out there and carrying around their things because they can't put them down anywhere. With laundromat and with showers, we have to have a plan. And I am so excited about, being the mayor and making that happen. Thank you.
Mr. Chavez.
In the state of California, there's this big argument on homelessness between a housing first model or dealing with the substance abuse and using a little more strong corrective action. Having visited a number of these programs across the state, I would say what you need is both of them. You need everything. I agree that we do need to have a shelter here. A lot of people probably don't know this, but Carlsbad has a shelter. And so if Carlsbad can have a shelter, why can't Oceanside have a shelter? So I think we need to stop arguing over this. We can deal with behavioral health. We can deal with substance abuse. You can deal with economics. You can deal with children being abused. You can deal with domestic violence. You need a lot of different capabilities for the city the size of Oceanside to deal with this very serious problem. But yes, we should have a shelter.
Thank you.
Carlsbad has one, so should we.
Mr. Major.
So having been homeless as a kid, this is a really important issue to me. I do believe that we are not following the law of the land right now, which is Martin versus Boise that you spoke about. I encourage people to look that up and see what that case means. We are ticketing and citing the homeless. It's a waste of taxpayer money because these get thrown out of court. Right now, the way that the court said is that this Martin versus Boise decision is that if you're homeless, you get to live in public as long as there's not enough beds. And since we don't have enough beds, people get to live in front of the storefronts. They get to in public property. They get to live in the riverbed. And so this is no way for us to run the city because we can't even deal with the issue. So we definitely need to get the shelters in order to deal with this crisis. I believe tiny homes are a solution to this. I've met with a lot of nonprofits on this particular issue, and that's what many of them are talking about as far as a solution. We're also misdirecting money. This year there was $300,000 that could have been put towards the homeless crisis, and it wasn't. We have a manufactured crisis. The city can do a lot about this, and they don't.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Marchi. You have to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
There is a shortage. There is a power outage in South Oceanside right now. We have no electricity, so I had to go back with my cell phone.
Oh,
Sorry for that.
no.
All South Oceanside with no electricity. I can see it from my window. So sorry. So what was the question?
The question was that in October 3rd, 2018, Oceanside adopted a resolution to declare a shelter. It is now 2020 and we have no shelters. What is your plan to build shelters for the homeless? And do you intend to build enough shelters to satisfy the Martin versus Boise threshold?
Yes, shelters are very important to have in a city as a first response. We need to allocate money to take care of the shelters. Now, as a mayor, my intention is build more housing for the people in need. And the easy and quick solution is achieve ADUs and homeowners for room additions in approval, very easy as one day. In that way, we will help to provide shelters to people that are in need, homeless especially. Thanks so much. I have no electricity, sorry.
So you're doing very well, thank you. This is going to be our last question. And so it is in a time of limited budgets and resources, what will be your, and this is highlighted, immediate top 3 priorities? And so Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. Well, it is addressing the homeless. It is, as I said, pretty embarrassing that we haven't done this. We have $8 million in our in lieu fees, and we can act now. It's been very sad for me to not address that. So it's homeless and also affordable housing. Also, we need to address the concerns that people have been bringing forward regarding racial justice issues and do that in a very respectful way. I've been working with our police department on making things better in terms of community police relations. So it's great that we have new people on board in this dialogue. And economic development, we need to help our businesses in terms of the COVID, but we also need to redesign ourselves. We have over 76% of our workforce travels to outside of Oceanside. Our average is 26 miles. We need to have jobs here, livable wage jobs. So those are the 3. And of course, the environment.
Thank you. Mr. Howard.
To give the top three, the first one would have, for me, would be the COVID recovery, and you do it through an equity lens to ensure that what we're doing is we're helping those micro businesses get up and running, because they don't have the resources that the larger business are. I'm talking about your restaurants, your shops, and other ones that make Oceanside the community that it is, and do it by protecting with the science. As an emergency director for the utility, I understand, invisible contamination. I know what they need in order to make that happen. So the COVID recovery, so we're protecting our workers, helping our businesses get up and running, and start and making sure the next one, number two, I would work towards dealing with our homelessness, and that connects to our housing. And so those two go hand in hand, and we talked about it earlier about directly targeting those particular causes. And our climate action plan. Our climate, it's people try to vilify environmentalists for caring about our climate, but the reality is climate justice and climate action and our economic development all go hand in hand. Okay, so those are the three.
Thank you. It looks like Mr. Marchi, the power got the better of him. I'm not sure. Mr. Marchi, are you there? Okay, we'll hold him to the end and hope he gets time to come back to answer this. Mr. Chavez?
Sure. My 3 points are bringing back small business with the COVID environment. We worked so hard to build our tourism industry, and we were just starting to take off, and then COVID came. COVID's real. It's going to be with us for some time, regardless what you may hear on the news. It's going to be here for a while, and we need to support businesses so they go forward. My second point I would hit on is energy. Energy is what drives the economies. In California, we're going to go to carbon free, which I support. And so how do we deal with the transportation requirements, the housing issues on a carbon free environment? And I think the city of Oceanside needs to start looking at partners and how we're going to do that. My third point would be education. The city of Oceanside used to partner with education, but in 2004, we stopped doing that. I would bring that back, because if you really want to talk about equity and opportunity and dealing with how to move people forward, it's a better education. And the low control funding that was established required us to do that, and I would do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Major?
So it's funny, running for office, one of the things that I've noticed here is that there's a lot of dark and dirty money, even in city politics. And so that has been one of the most frustrating things to see. And, there really is, it is really a system that is unfairly disadvantaging people in the community over people who have special interests. And I definitely don't like that. I haven't asked for any donations since COVID hit. And that's because I know that you guys are having a hard time. We're all having a hard time. So whatever I can do to support that. And, some things on COVID recovery, I think we need to be relaxing some of the zoning and permitting ordinances for small businesses. We need some more hand washing stations. We need regular business forums, eviction protections for businesses and as well as residents, so that we can get our community economy going better. And then again, talked about the homeless crisis. That was a big one. And also public safety. That's a big thing for me as a paramedic.
Okay, thank you. Before our candidates give their closing remarks, I want to first thank you all for asking such good questions. It's obvious that there's a lot of interest in this election. By the way, if you'd like to become involved with the men and women helping making democracy work for everyone, it's really, really easy to join the League. We encourage you to visit our website, my.lwv.org, and click on North County. We also encourage you to visit votersedge.org. It's one-stop shopping. It's a great website for nonpartisan information about the candidates, ballot issues, and detailed voting information. This website also tracks the financing of the ballot measures, which can often be very, very informative. Our San Diego Registrar's website, sdvote.com, is another great resource for getting additional information about the election. And by putting in your address, you can access your personal ballot. You can also track your mail-in ballot with the option they have on their homepage called Where's My Ballot? It's like tracking your Federal Express delivery. You can see where your ballot is all the steps of the way. This is just another way to gain confidence in the mail-in ballot system. I'm pretty sure we all know the election is November 3rd, but there are a few other dates you might want to remember. The deadline to register to vote is October 19th. If you have moved or changed your name or wish to change your party affiliation since you last registered, you must re-register. Online voter registration is available at the registrar's website, again, sdvote.com. It's both secure and easy. If you do miss the October deadline, you may register conditionally and vote provisionally, but in person at the San Diego Registrar of Voters Office in Kearney Mesa or any one of the county vote centers beginning Saturday, October 31st until 8 o'clock on November 3rd, Election Day. If you just can't wait, early voting started October 5th at the registrar's office. And please remember, it's easy, secure, and convenient to vote by mail. Now the candidates will make their closing statements and we will reverse the order that we started. So Ms. Sanchez, you're first.
And it's a minute?
Yes, please. Yes, I'm sorry, a minute, yes.
Thank you. My name is Councilmember Esther Sanchez, and I'm running to be our next mayor of Oceanside. You know what? I was thinking about it. I think that I've been running for mayor my entire life to be mayor of Oceanside. I was born and raised here in the one poverty neighborhood that we had back then, 30,000 people at the time. And, you know, my folks, you know, fought to have the streets paved and lights and all of that. And that is that they instilled in me community. So I went off and got a scholarship to Brown University, got an urban planning degree, got a law degree, worked as a public defender, and basically worked with our kids in making sure that our kids understood that we all can have dreams and we can all have a better life. So I got into being a city council person and just rolled up my sleeves, and I've done so many things, even without, you know, being a 4-to-1. I've been able to get a lot of things, and I've been able to get people at the table, even the folks that, you know, would prefer not to be on the council, to get things to go. I'm a firm believer in working together. My name is Esther Sanchez, council member, and I'm running to be our next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chavez.
Yes, I'd like to thank the library for hosting this. You know, here's my book. I'm reading from the library right now. It's called Leadership in Turbulent Times. Seems very appropriate right now for everything going on. You know, the mayor is a leader, and they have to make sure that the council is moving in the right direction. And it can't be just an outspoken 4-to-1. It actually needs to be somebody who can get 3 and 4 votes moving in the right direction. I think it's clear if you look at my bio, being a Marine colonel, having served on the council, having been a state assembly member, and having been a part of the Schwarzenegger and Brown cabinet, I have a clear experience both at the national, state, regional, and local level. I offer that to the city because I believe we have great times coming with the right sort of leadership. And to me, it's very clear. Just look at the bios. Don't listen to what people say they've done. Look and see what they've actually done. I'd be honored to have your support. My name is Rocky Chavez, and I'd love to be the mayor of Oceanside to help you and help all of us be the shining city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Major.
Well, again, I appreciate this opportunity so very much. I would say for me, this is our city. I want to do whatever I can to support our community and make sure that your voices are heard. This is your decision to make. I have been frustrated as what I've seen over the many years with people in the community not being listened to and the council just doing what they want. I want to be your voice on the council, and your voice as the mayor. But for me, I know there's not a whole lot of time for this election. So if you do have any questions, I want you to give me a phone call. I want you to text me. My number is 760-525-0530. Or if you want, send me an email at campaign@rubenmajor.com. I will answer any of your questions. Again, this is about making our city a happier place. And I would appreciate your support very much and your vote on November 3rd. Thank you. Again, my name is Ruben Major.
Thank you. Mr. Howard.
Thank you to the league. Thank you to the library. This has been good. The more we exchange ideas, the better informed we're going to be as a community. Again, I'm Rob Howard, and I'm running for Oceanside Mayor. My experience has been in the room with communities, large corporations, educational institutions, and sitting across the table. And when you have had the opportunity to actually collectively bargain, then you understand that it's about getting things done and working together. I've worked with people from the far left to the far right, and it really is about having a commitment to ensure that we get the best out of those involved. My experience has shown that it's done when you actually are committed to working together. And so I ask for your vote, Rob Howard for mayor, and let's bring someone there that's going to work together and bring us together and show leadership in that fashion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marchi, are you there? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you were able to hear Mr. Marchi earlier. There is a power outage wherever he lives in Oceanside. Some of you probably already realized that, but we seem to, we have him coming in and out, and right now I'm afraid he's not online with us. And so we're going to, I'm sure he feels very sorry that he wasn't able to contribute in these last few.
I'm here. I don't know if you guys can hear me now.
Yes, go ahead,
this
Mr.
is
Marchi.
Fabio. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes. Mr. Marchi, this is oh, he's gone again. 1 minute for a closing statement.
He's gone.
Yeah. Oh, I hate. Oh, he's back. Oh, Mr. Marchi, we're in closing statements. You have 1 minute.
So it's going to be until 1 in the morning. I'm going to make it very simple, both for Fabio. I will cut all the red tape. And I believe that the mayor is the leader in the city. And very simple, vote for Fabio. I don't know if you hear me. I'm losing you in and out. And thank you very much. I don't know if you can hear me.
We heard you just fine. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'd like to plug my website, estherformayor.com.
On behalf of the Oceanside Public Library and the League of Women Voters of North County, San Diego, I want to commend the candidates for running for elected office and for their participation in this forum. And thank you all watching for getting involved and not being just a voter, but being an informed voter. Thanks again so much for joining us. Goodbye.